Surprise. I decided to go live about 1:34 in the morning my time. Don't expect to have too many guests today. Most of my listeners and stuff are usually in bed by now. But sometimes my mind gets cooking, and it's a good thing. My mind gets going and it's exciting and I get ideas and inspiration and I kind of look at things and I think about things and write some notes down and kind of been having a lot of that the last few days, and it's not a bad thing at all. But I came across some insights and some things that I wanted to share with you, and this is going to go over most people's heads. I already checked it out with a few people and made sure I wasn't sounding too crazy, because we can all do that, right? I don't want to be in an echo chamber or anything like that, but I mean, most would say I know a lot about these topics, or at least I'm pretty well versed. And I'm going to share with you guys some deeper level stuff today. Some stuff that, if you can grasp what I'm getting at here, and if you can get this principle I'm going to tell you about or talk about, you'll have access to being able to have peak relationships and peak experiences with women in your life. And so, I can't tell you what I think about this, my friend. Unfortunately, I wear uniforms sometimes, so my opinion's not for public consumption. Thanks for asking, though. If we were talking privately or something, I'd be able to help you out there. Anyways, back to the topic, though. I won't be paying too much to the chat, actually, but of course, you guys have questions, throw it in. But yeah, we're going to talk about some deeper level stuff. And again, if you can grasp this concept I'm about to drop on you, try to do it without taking too long or making it several hours of a show or anything crazy. But if you can grasp this, you'll have access to some peak experiences and peak things. For those of you guys who are kind of red pill, we'll say, this is kind of your red pilling in a way. This is a red pilling of the red pill guys, the way I look at it. You're going to see some other things you didn't see before if you have a good understanding of this stuff. And, you will really be able to understand some things that you've never been able to really to see before. And you'll be able to apply it to what you're doing in your relationships, in your dating life. And it'll change you in a good way. So buckle up and let's get into this. Now, we're going to explore a dilemma. It's a question that came up in my Seduction mastermind group, which you could potentially get into if you want to work with me one-on-one. Links in the description is to make that appointment, free appointment to get to see if you're a good fit. So that's in the description. Get that out of the way. Now we can talk. This came up, though, in that group, and it was really just somebody who was struggling or having a dilemma, more or less, because he's a red pilled guy. We'll call him, if you don't know what red pill is, I'll get into it a little bit, some of the new people, but I mean, he's that guy. He knows things. He's very good at this stuff, very smart. He's doing pretty well with women by the standards of, how most guys are doing. He wants to do better, but he's doing fairly well. And that's why he's in the group, so we can, level up and everything. And so he had this dilemma because he would get together with people who are more red pill than and they would have like negativity, and he was trying to how do I deal with that? Because I feel like it brings me down or pulls me back into a place where he had been before, which is more or less what we call that rage phase of red pill rage, when you realize that the things that you've been told or socially conditioned to believe have been lies, and you've been sort of cheated out of time and experiences with women and relationships, have had bad experiences because of some of your existing beliefs, and so he doesn't want to get pulled back down into a negative headspace with some of these people. And so he's like, well, how do I deal with that? And then when you look at the relationship advice market, we'll call it, there's tons of negativity out there and tons of stuff that gets out into the outlandish areas of thinking. Like only an internet person who's never touched a woman or hasn't in a very long time would think the way that some of these channels present information. But let's look at things. Let's analyze this stuff. Let's analyze the paradigms that we have. So we'll start with red pill. Now, first of all, red pill is, I'm considered a red pill guy because I'm on the Rule Zero panel. My friends that I work with who are very smart, very good are red pill guys, and they've helped out a lot of people. I always recommend Rollo Tomasi's Rational Male books. I think they're good reads. I think they're important concepts in there to understand. Instead of going through volumes of evolutionary psychology material and stuff, you could, in trying to figure out how to apply that, which I had done prior to I'd done some of that prior to the Rational Male series. You could pick up his book series or read his blog and do pretty damn well and have a lot of really good insight. There's a lot of good people out there that, speak under that banner that have saved and helped a lot of men out. So some of the things I'm going to say here is not negative against that stuff. Okay. But we're going to take a real hard look at all of it. Okay. So we'll start with red pill. So what red pill was created out of, we could say necessity more or less, but it's created by guys who had been through some trauma or damage, we'll call it. All right. They've experienced bad things. Either they've seen bad things happen to other people, or they had things directly bad happen to them, or is a mixture of both. And they started, with the internet and forums and the ability to sort of compare notes and exchange ideas. They started going down a pathway of trying to figure this stuff out. And what came out the other end was a red pill. Okay. But you got to remember that damage, all right, and harm to men had been the catalyst, all right, for looking into an alternative understanding of what had been commonly taught about female nature in the sexual marketplace. And a lot of things got pulled from the pickup community. A lot of things got pulled from evolutionary psychology and really whatever else they could get their hands on. And some really good stuff had come out of that, stuff that, and it still comes out of it, stuff that is not mainstream and really gives you a good insight on how things can be. But you have to remember, though, it came from a place of damage or trauma. All right. And guys who've been through bad experiences. And then that's the origin point. Even Rollo, okay, had his brother-in-law, make we'll call it self-select, take himself out of the gene pool, had him do that over a woman. And that really caused him to ask a lot of questions, right? Plus his observations and everything like that. I've had a number of friends who have self-selected, military guys, over women and over trouble in the sexual marketplace, as well as my own experiences that weren't always so good. So that, having so many friends and people I know make that final decision over broken relationships and some of the things that they would experience from women, that was a place of trauma or damage for me to try to learn about these things. My good friend Rich Cooper over at Entrepreneurs and Cars has great videos, great shows, and he got to talking about at least the sexual marketplace through a bad divorce, a terrible relationship with a toxic girlfriend after that. And that brought him to Rollo's work and, interacting on YouTube with all you guys who benefit from his videos. Ryan Stone has got great videos, great insights on the married aspects of things and LTR aspects of things as well. Well, he got there because, from his speech anyway, from my understanding of talking to him, he got there from military experiences and seeing how women were, and then he got cheated on in his relationships, and so there's some damage or trauma there that brought him to some conclusions, and I could keep going on and on. There isn't anybody that came here because they were having awesome experiences and they decided to have awesomer ones. To some level, everybody that came to the men's relationship advice area, whether it's manosphere, red pill, especially, or any of the alternative little labels, had something bad happen that brought them here. And that is the nature, though, of sexual dynamics. Sexual dynamics and relationship dynamics is divisiveness, it's conflict, it's instability. All right. So with that divisiveness, conflict, and instability, you basically have what we could categorize as four things that could happen. All right, that basically happened to somebody. All right. And so here's the four things. So first one is what we would most commonly call like a blue pill lifestyle or paradigm. Now, understand when I use these terms, I'm just categorizing, okay? Most people living out there in the world do not go, I'm a blue pilled guy. I'm a black pill guy. I'm a red pill guy. That's not normal stuff, right? That's just internet speak. And it's kind of dumb. And I realize that, but we need terms for things because it helps us, understand concepts. So consider the most common reaction to how to handle your relationships, okay, is what we would call blue pill. All right. It's men and women following a socially conditioned paradigm. Okay. What does that social conditioning entail? Well, they go through relationships. Well, the results of it, first of all, are relationships that are not really that great. Okay. They're not usually, for most people, they're not bad enough or terrible enough for them to want to challenge the paradigm. But, they're not these awesome pinnacle fairy tale things either that they believe that they're going to get into if they follow all the rules. And women have their own sets of ideas and paradigms that they're conditioned with. Men have their own. And I feel like that stuff has gotten worse as far as maintaining anything long term over time with the internet and some of the things. But regardless, when people get married and do the typical American dream, what do you end up with? It's a very dull, going along to get along kind of relationship. People who created more or less a prison or a paradigm for themselves to operate in, and they're basically looking for yard time. Okay. And those relationships end in divorce, end in some people stepping out on each other and sticking together anyway, or they end in a dead bedroom or whatever. They just normally don't go too well. And that's most relationships by high percentages. And they just rinse and repeat. They get bad advice from their parents and their friends and family who are also failing in their relationships. And people are in general not happy out there. Okay. They're not happy, but it works. All right. It works for consumerism. It works for society. But of course, it doesn't work for the individuals. All right. And so, that's what ends up happening. That's the normal paradigm, right? The normal blue pill fantasy paradigm kind of puts them there. And then you have men and women who are on the outside of it, the outliers, okay, who are mostly the incels types, right? You have incel women too. These have become the cat lady, okay? More incel men for sure than incel women, but women after they hit the wall often become incel. And they basically they were never able to make anything work. They're that smaller percentage, right? And so you have that category. And then you have the opposite of the incel. Okay. The opposite of the incel, I would say, is the ignorantly blissful couple. All right. They're often like the traditional conservative type, right, of some sort, some religion, usually, Judeo-Christian religion. And, because at the very least, the tradcons, regardless of what specific denomination religion they follow, they at least respect that genders aren't the same, right? and that men and women aren't the same either, and that men should be in a leadership position by default in a relationship, which keeps at least the polarity of relationships kind of in somewhat in line. And so you have these tradcon types that can sometimes accidentally have really good relationships, and they get there and they're not sure how they got there, right? And so now I know churches are being indoctrinated by more feminism and, you know, and all that, but there's no respectable Judeo-Christian faith or type that would say that men and women are completely equal and the same, and that the man doesn't have a leadership role. It just doesn't fit Judaism, Christianity, or Islam. So these couples do follow a socially conditioned paradigm, but it just sort of works out, you know. They kind of get lucky, and they're not really aware as to why it works out. So they just kind of have their best guess. They grow all together. They just blame it on God, say that they're best, that they're blessed, or they're very lucky, or whatever. Worst case scenario is that they actually do try to write a book or teach classes out of their church on marriage or whatever. And it's all, it's total nonsense. They have no self-awareness of how they got to where they're at, no insight on it. And they're just sort of just trying to tell you things that isn't going to work for anybody, but that's because they don't know any better. So that's that kind of category. So you have your blue pill, you got your incel types, and you have the small percentage of people that had it accidentally work out. Okay. And so then what do we have? We have that fourth option. All right. And these are the guys who become red pilled. We'll call it red pill because but it's not all red pill in terms of space. There's some people who become red pilled and they don't really identify with that pill, but they just sort of understand female nature and enough where we could consider them that, you know what I mean? There's people who are red pilled before there was a movement or a term for it. And so that's kind of the fourth thing. And it almost doesn't happen unless there was some sort of damage or trauma to get them there. All right. So that's why this space can be so toxic, because people got there through somebody getting screwed up or messed up. Right. And so the red pill thinking is more objective or true, whether they call it red pill or not. But there's usually something that happened to get them there. Right. Or they witnessed something or whatever, because there's really no catalyst to change otherwise. All right. So let's get some clarity. Now, why does this happen? All right. Why is it that when people become aware of the sexual marketplace and male-female dynamics, they understand truth, that it has to happen through damage or trauma most of the time? Almost every time, really. And I'm just saying that as a word because I really don't know anybody who was totally cool with everything and then came to this understanding. Like, it just doesn't happen, right? And so why though? And then why is there that toxicity that you have in this space because of it, right? Well, the reason why, and then also why aren't men and women just happily banging, spitting out kids, and just being together and everything is good, right? Like the fairy tale that you were told. Why is that not the case? Even when you have an understanding of intergender and intersexual dynamics, when you understand this stuff, why isn't it just like poof, we're happy now, right? Things just work out super easy. And people who say it is, I don't believe them. I know it's usually not true. All right. They have to say that because they're on the internet. So they go through their ups and downs. It wasn't easy to get there. And a lot of times those are really dull situations that they've sort of resolved to be in. Okay. So why is there not this blissful, happy, banging situation for most people? All right. So let's answer that question. This happens because men and women evolved with different sexual strategies. This is what red pill people understand, whether they call it that or not. Could be an Evo psych guy who doesn't care to call himself that understands this, right? But anyway, so men and women are designed, yes, they're designed to complement each other, but not in the way that you think. They complement each other in a divisive manner. All right. If we're left to our own nature, our way that we complement each other and the way that our sexual strategies is that we are designed to work in conflict with each other. Okay. So let me repeat that again because it's an important one. I don't think people get it. All right. We are designed, men and women, okay, genetically or innately, are designed to complement each other, but in a divisive manner, in a manner that's in conflict, okay, not in a blissful, happy manner. All right. Most people are not aware of this fact. So I'm going to break it down as to why this is and why understanding this is important. And then there's a light at the end of the tunnel. So stick with me to the end. That's not the secret here. Okay. If there is a secret, but whatever, that's not the big reveal. The big reveal is after this information. Some of you guys listening already know what I'm saying. All right. So for clarity, all right, men and women complement each other in a divisive manner because that's what's promoted genetic diversity and sexual competition. All right. Competition in any sense is divisive. All right. There's conflict in competition. Okay. So what you have is men who are looking to collect women and mate switch and mate as many times as they can with the hottest girls and discard them when they are no longer useful. Okay, that's our innate drive. We have some drive to want to take care of a baby maker if they're going to have that as well, which gets us in trouble. So we want to mate with multiple women, discard the ones that aren't useful. The ones that are useful are the ones that could carry our babies, and we keep those around. And then women are also looking to collect their options, but there's the best genetic options instead of all the random options they could get, and the best resources. And they'll discard men when men are no longer useful to them either. So that's what we have. But because women control the birth, right, you end up with Briffault's law. All right, and you guys are familiar with Briffault's law. It's where the female, not the male, determines all of the conditions of the animal family, and as human beings, we're also animals too, right? So that's where the female can derive no benefit from association with the male. No such association takes place. So that's Briffault's law. All right, when men are no longer of use, they're discarded. So men counteract this through using dominance and using resources and to be a benefit to multiple women. All right. So men aren't just a benefit to their wives or whatever, as some illusionary Dreadcon fantasy would tell you. Men want to be men become beneficial or could be beneficial to multiple women by being attractive and having resources and having dominance. Thus, men can counteract Briffault's law, at least a small percentage of them can, smaller percentage, by keeping women in a state of dread or anxiety and in competition for them, even if they're in a relationship. All right. So this is not a blissful and happy image, is it, so far? Again, stay till the end. There's a light at the end of the tunnel. But genetically speaking, this is not a blissfully happy image. All right. It's where men and women are trying to execute their own strategy and will discard when it suits them to discard. All right. And that's men, that's women. Men are less likely to discard, believe it or not, because if she is the baby maker and could potentially hold that baby, there's a part of a man's neurochemical reaction that will cause him to want to take care of her. That does not exist the other way around. Women are desired to take care of children, not desired to take care of men. So for women, it's always a negotiation. Okay. So and then men are always trying to stay on top of that negotiation or control aspects of the woman's life and resources so that she doesn't negotiate elsewhere. Okay. And this is what you have. It's a divisive situation, obviously. And that's against the grain of what most people think. All right. So women are not designed to try to be blissfully happy and together with their marital partner. No, they're designed to mate with the best genetic options, get the most resources. And men are designed to mate with all the hot women and get rid of them when they get annoying or of no use either. All right. And so they are designed to win. We are designed to win at the expense of the other person. All right. That's our design. And what this caused was competition. It caused sexual competition. It caused genetic diversity that's promoted those things. It allowed us to survive and develop as human race, as a human race. We've progressed as human beings in part because of this divisive relationship, because it causes mate switching, it causes genetic diversity, and it causes a push to the best of the best to mate. All right. Which means a whole bunch of people get left behind. And a whole bunch of people are in anxiety and in competition with each other and themselves and with their partners so that they don't get left behind. And not being able to have, your capabilities of mating, even if you're 100 years old and you never have kids anymore, right? There's still a drive, right, for it. It's natural. It's our drive, our sexual selection part of our evolutionary process is more powerful than survival, more powerful than natural selection. All right. So that's why we're in it. We're in it and it's divisive. And that's why bad things happen. And that's why toxic stuff happens. And then dudes end up in a red pill space. And then they're not talking about things very optimistically. And I know that so far I haven't done that either, but stay till the end. Okay. So the red pill guys, whether they call themselves that or not, again, they sort of understand all this, right? And so the red pill paradigm or manosphere, any of that stuff is setting things up for men to win more and more often by understanding female nature. Okay. So it's, and some people get this, some people don't. You know, Ryan Stone talks about how she's not on your team. You're both there benefiting yourselves, and being in the relationship benefits you and it benefits her. And that's why you're in it. And the minute it stops benefiting, you stop benefiting yourselves, one or the other, that's when you run into a problem and potentiality for that relationship to end. And I'd agree with that, to a degree most of the time. But again, there's more to it. So men are we're setting up for men to win versus lose, whereas the blue-pilled socially conditioned paradigm sets up for men to lose and women to win. All right. If you don't understand that, then I don't know where you've been, because it seems like feminists and even people who don't claim to be feminists, but the society is largely gynocentric. So, the idea is to say that men are the oppressors and women are the oppressed. And then through that, we socially condition away things like masculinity and stuff like that. So won't go down that rabbit hole too hard, but that's just women trying to win in a genetically or innately divisive situation that we're in with different sexual strategies. Okay. Where we complement each other by fighting each other. That's how it is. It's like we're formidable opponents for each other, and it pushes us to do things that create babies and create sexual tension, right? And so red pill kind of gets that, sets men up to be the winner rather than the loser. All right. So that's a critical step, though, actually. All right. But that's not setting men up for bliss and long-term happiness and this euphoric, wonderful relationship, is it? It's just setting men up to not lose and sometimes win. And so now you have a whole bunch of people following that in their different ways, right? And some will follow it by spinning plates and never being in relationships and those sort of things. And that's their way of not losing. Some will follow it by, getting into relationships, but having side chicks or doing different things. I mean, there's all different ways that guys will will try to not lose or possibly even win. Not getting married, signing a contract where they lose half their stuff. That's generally good advice, right? But that might not be the best advice for a woman. For a woman, maybe, especially if she's not the top resource provider in that unit or that relationship, she's kind of not winning by not getting that contract signed, isn't she? Right? She's not on the winning side of it anymore. And that's why women don't like these conversations a lot of times when men are talking about it. But women have their own sets of conversations with their girlfriends or their advice books or their things that are setting them up to win at the expense of the man. And so we're all doing the same thing. We're no better than they are. It's just a matter of who wins so far. State of the end, though, remember? And so, so we aren't designed for these euphoric, blissful, happy experiences on a long-term basis, but that doesn't mean that we can't have it. All right. I'm going to repeat that. We're not designed for it on a genetic level, but that doesn't mean we can't have that blissful, euphoric, long-term relationship with a woman or multiple women, depending on what you're running. Okay. We're not designed to fly around in jets, are we? But we do it all the time, and we do it relatively safely and pretty efficiently now. We fly around in jets. We're not designed that way. So we can design things, or we can engineer our lives and our situations to have these peak experiences, blissful relationships, great experiences with women without the divisiveness, or at least minimize the divisiveness. We can have it. All right. How do we do that though? Because by nature, we're not designed that way. So what though? I'm supposed to just slam dudes' heads into walls and stuff when I get mad at them. That's my nature. I'm a male who is dominant, right? But that doesn't mean we do it, right? We resolve conflicts differently. So we can do things better than our innate chimpanzee, drivers, right? And even better than what we've done before as human beings and what society is doing. Now, here's that secret part, and I'll get into it, and it's going to blow your mind, or you're just going to not get it, or you're going to say, I knew that the whole time. I'm so smart. Anyway, it's what I call the surrender factor. All right. And it sounds terrible. So I don't know if I'm going to call it the surrender factor permanently, but that's what we're going to call it right now. All right. And surrender factor is that it factor that the red pill, or if you want to call it that, is missing. All right. The name, though, surrendering sounds really uncomfortable. Like nobody wants to surrender to anything. And that's why I like the name, because this is one of those things where you don't do it. If you don't do it, you can't really have this thing I'm talking about, but you're not going to want to do it at first. It's going to be, the idea of it sounds terrible. I don't like the idea of surrendering. I've resisted that for a long time, until very recently, in fact. Okay. So let's talk about the surrender factor. What do I mean? Okay. It starts with outcome independence. So this is good. This is, where a lot of people who would consider themselves red pill are very understanding, or, the real woke. All right. Not the fake leftist woke, or whatever you want to call it. All right. Being outcome independent, having a radical acceptance of facts. All right. And so, but the surrender factor is not just a radical acceptance. It's also where you actually stop trying to win in the sexual marketplace. Hear me out. All right. You don't, and I have an analogy for this. Okay. You don't play the game at all while you participate in the game at the same time. It's like you're above the game. Okay. This is what the surrender factor does for you. And so follow me on this one. All right. Imagine a group of men and women playing a game of suicide dodgeball, right? Where there's no boundaries. They're in a gymnasium, like think of your high school or middle school gym. There's balls everywhere, like they would play for dodgeball. Like kids throw at each other back in the day. And all you're doing is picking up a ball, trying to scramble to get one and throw it at somebody else. All right. And so that's it. That's suicide dodgeball. And a bunch of men and women are just playing suicide dodgeball. There are no teams, no boundaries. Everybody runs around, tries to hit somebody else, and somehow try to win at this thing. But here's the thing. Nobody knows exactly what winning means. There hasn't actually been a definition for winning in this game. I mean, what is it? To not get hit? Is that winning? Some people, maybe it's not get hit. Is it to hit the most people? Or maybe it's to hit like people the hardest. You know what I mean? Or maybe it's to hit the same person repeatedly every time, go for the same target every time you get your hands on a ball. Like nobody really knows that's playing this game. But all they're knowing is that they're going around and, trying to hit each other with these dodgeballs. And in the process, they might come up with some rules. All right. Maybe someone decides at some point, hey, when you get a ball, you got to stand in place and throw it instead of chasing people around. All right. Maybe that's something that a bunch of people agree on. So then some people follow the rules and do that. Some people don't. And some people will cheat the rules. Right. So you got people cheating, you've got people not following, total chaos. All right. Chaos. And then you're outcome independent. And you have the surrender factor here, which I'll get more into. And you show up and you decide to take one of the ball, and instead of throwing at someone's face, you just start shooting baskets with it. Remember, you're in a middle school or high school gym, basketball nets are there. You just start shooting baskets, doing your own thing. Maybe you grab a chick or two. Oh, yeah. And you start and you're playing a game of horse, right? And or just casually shooting the ball back and forth. It's your game. You decide what you want to do. Everyone else is playing this game of dodgeball, but you're doing what you want to do. They're playing suicide. You're playing your game. And sometimes some of the girls will play along for a bit. They're curious and they get bored or whatever, and they get back into the chaos and start playing dodgeball again. But maybe you get a girl who doesn't want to go back to the chaos. She's tired of getting hit in the face, and she's tired of trying to hit other people in the face. And she's tired of this game, and she sees your game is more fun. And she likes you. She likes playing the game with you. It's more about you than the game. And you're making the rules, and that's okay. And it's just better than what everyone else is doing. So she sticks around, and she just wants to do that for a while. She doesn't want to go back to the other thing. All right? You win not by being the best at suicide dodgeball, but you win because you don't play everybody else's game. That's how you win in the sexual marketplace. And I'll get into why it applies to surrendering in a second here. We're getting there. All right. So now maybe that dodgeball thing isn't the greatest analogy. I'll work on it, but it's what we got for now. Right. So you play the game without playing the game by accepting what you can't control and focusing on what you can control. That's a simple concept. You've heard it before. That's what outcome independence basically is. However, for you to have the relationship that's blissful and happy and euphoric most of the time, despite the divisive nature of men and women being together, that requires taking outcome independence further into surrender and surrendering to that relationship. And I will explain what that means more. And that is the surrender factor. It's taking outcome independence to another level. All right. The surrender factor is where both you and your partner accept the divisive nature of the sexual marketplace and the divisive nature of yourselves and each other and how you two can be together, how divisive and you could be to each other. And you accept the game and understand that the game of suicide dodgeball, well, that's what everybody else is playing. And you both decide to stop, preferably she'll do it because it's your frame and she really likes you, right? But you both decide to stop trying to win. and you decide to play a different game. And that game is where you stop trying to win and just start being, right? Just be together. All right. You just are, and that's it. And nobody is trying to protect themselves. Nobody's trying to win. Nobody's past trauma and whatever is in their current relationship and causing them to overanalyze or get weird about stuff. Nope. Just let it go and just be. And in that state of being together, if it's both the most sexually arousing as well as blissfully happy and euphoric state you could imagine in those moments that you're with that person and that you're just being, then you've won. You've won by not playing and playing your own game that's better than the game that everybody else is playing, right? And so then you do more of that with that person. Maybe you have to go through a couple people or whatever till you find your grow old together person, but that's what you do. And now, of course, when you're being with that person, if being with that person is not for some reason the best place you could imagine, it's not as euphoric as you'd like, or there's missing pieces, well, then you let each other go and you try again when the right next person worth trying it with comes along. So she surrenders to the relationship by submitting to you. And this is very difficult for women. Most women have trouble nowadays submitting to a man. All right. But if they don't, they can't have this. Sorry, ladies, anyone and women who come across this content, this will cause most women to check out right here. Nope. Because the idea of submission for most women is a scary one. And they won't do it. They don't want to do it. But they don't, if they want this, they have to do it. They have to submit. That's part of their surrender, is submitting to that man's leadership. Because if they don't, right, they don't submit. She does not submit to your authority as the masculine leader in that relationship. Then what she is left to do is try to control the relationship. And that control, as soon as control steps in, you're no longer surrendering. And now you're playing dodgeball. All right. So that's what she has to do. And don't worry, guys, you're not left out here. You have to do something too. But that's what she has to do. She has to be able to submit, because she is a woman and her natural state is to be with a dominant leader. That is male. That is how we've evolved. Can't get around it. Okay. And so with that, here's an interesting one. I'm not trying not to look at the chat, so don't lose my thought, but that was worth hitting up there. Okay. Yes, they'll submit in certain areas. So she'll submit in the bedroom, but then, she won't submit when it comes to other decisions. That's not really fully submitting. And that's not surrendering in the relationship. She has to surrender. Okay. Because if she's not, then she's going to be trying to control things to make sure that she wins. She has to win, right? And once she does that, then you're going to have to win. And now you're right back to playing dodgeball. So what do you have to do, guys? Well, you have to surrender to the relationship as well, which I think you're like sitting there going, I don't like that idea of surrender because I'm alpha and alpha men never surrender, right? That's what you're doing, right? Well, bullshit. And yes, you have to surrender. Now you're not submitting to her in the same way that she submits to you. That's not what it means for a man to surrender the relationship. But what you have to do is you have to stop trying to control everything in the relationship. Leading the relationship is not the same as controlling. And so this is where you stop controlling her behavior. She controls her own behavior. Her problems are her problems. You stop controlling it. You stop, trying to control all of the outcomes and everything that she's doing. And you submit in a sense, but it's to her needs and your responsibilities in your leadership position to take care of her needs. Okay. You want to be in a leadership position. You want to be the big alpha male and lead your relationships. Well, guess what? You got responsibilities to the people you're leading, and you have to make sure their needs are taken care of, and you have to submit to those, which means sometimes that need might be more important than yours in that moment for the success of the relationship. All right. You're still on your mental point of origin. You're still doing what you want to do and all that stuff to be your best version of yourself and all that cool language we use here. But sometimes giving into a need that she has and needs and making that leadership decision is part of going in the direction that you want. And you might have to do that. All right. Well, if she's submitting to you, then you are, and essentially, although you're leading, submitting to those needs that she has, because you have now responsibility for those. She's no longer, right, has the authority to make sure all those things are taken care of now. That belongs to you. Okay. And that means, again, you're not trying to control things, and neither is she. You just lead, she supports, and that's it. She makes her own decisions and the decisions for the relationship as well when you delegate it or when you can't for some reason. That could happen, right? That's when she does it, all right? Leader in that leadership and her support involves a lot of communication and a lot of decision making skills and a lot of skills in handling your own emotions, handling your own mental state, and understanding your goals and directions. And it doesn't have to involve control or controlling the other person, because you know what? Control, it's an illusion anyway. You don't have it. You think you have control, but you don't. And you never did. And winning, as most people perceive it, that's an illusion too. So that is the surrendering that both of you do and have to do. I'm just going to say both. We're going to talk in terms of man, woman, monogamy here, but I mean, or not monogamy, but just a single relationship. I'm not going to confound the idea with harems and other things, which do exist and all that. And that can be a thing too, but let's just stick to the simple concept here, right? And that's that you both surrender. And if you don't and can't do it, then what happens is you start trying to control. And once one person tries to control, then the other person's open to injury, so to speak, and they either get harmed, okay, in the process, or they start controlling too. And now you're back to playing dodgeball and you're back to the relationship that everybody else has. And you've all experienced this on a small level. You're in that relationship with that chick you're really into. She's really into you. Maybe you go off on vacation. You have a blissful, wonderful time. You're just being together. No one's controlling, right? And she's submitting to you and your leadership, and you're leading and submitting to her needs. Both of you are giving into the relationship and surrendering. And then you get home and she starts a fight about some shit, or you start getting anxiety about her doing something and then you freak out or whatever happens. And now you're back, or you get into just old mundane duties. And now you're back to controlling and back to reality, you see. And so people might have glimpses of that submission in moments, but they're never really, most people are always putting up armor and defenses and weaponry, and they're trying to control the relationship, which is why it creates a divisive situation. She's shit testing you. She's trying to take you off your center. You're passing a shit test and push pull and all the stuff we do, right? Because that's how we have to. It's divisive. It's not just like freaking show up and be and bang and have some good times and have some dinner and do something cool and then bang again, right? Like, or whatever you're doing and watch a movie. There's lots of banging that's involved, right? Whatever, right? No. It's this freaking game all the time, isn't it? And that's because men and women, when they go back into their natural states, they're divisive. So get lost on my notes here for a second, but yep. So yeah, The man, as a man, you're designed to have the frame. All right. And so when she or you, both of you guys get off the rails and start playing dodgeball again, instead of playing shooting baskets, as the man, you need to take it back to just being instead of trying to win and having her being in a state of trying to win. So there's going to be those times you're going to default to your chimp brains and start trying to win and be divisive together because that's how you evolved. And what you do as a man with frame is you pull her out of that by not playing that game anymore. Okay. And the skills that people come to me for in like the frame and seduction course is to learn how to do that better. All right. Not just get the girls, but also have them in that frame. Okay. And pull things into a type of relationship that they would want that's mostly blissful or happy or euphoric, right? With like lower drama. And then when there is drama or conflict, it gets solved in a mature, healthy way. All right. For you, all right, all you need is from her, once you have these skills, is you need her to be capable of following in your frame, capable of having that relationship that you would envision, and for her to be willing. Okay. Now, willingness comes from what we know in the red pill space and what EvoPsych even knows with strategic pluralism. It comes from being her sexual best. Okay. Being her best option. That's where her willingness comes from. She won't be willing after a point, and once honeymoon phase is over, to just surrender in the relationship to a man that she doesn't see as her best. She will always try to control, okay, when she doesn't see you as her best, or if she sees doesn't think she can do better than you or has done better than you. So she has to see you as the alpha, her apex alpha. But she also has to be healthy enough mentally, smart enough, good enough emotional development in order to do the surrendering thing I'm talking about. Okay. Now, red pill thinking without this surrender factor is really just a means of understanding and winning that game of suicide dodgeball. All right. Now, it's good though. You need it. You don't want to show up to the game as a blue pill guy and get hit in the face by every, thought on the street until you finally figure it out. So it's not bad to learn how to play dodgeball. You need to learn it. Okay. You need to understand the divisive nature of sexual dynamics. You need to accept it. And you need to accept that that's how it is in our nature. And we can't get out of that. All right. But red pill thinking without this surrender factor and in being able to let go and be free in your relationships means that you've resolved yourself to never, ever being able to let your guard down or trust a woman. And that's most of you guys in the chat right now. And guess what? She's never fully going to trust you because you're both playing the game. All right. And so you have to have that trust in that prisoner's dilemma. And you have to find the right person who you can pull into your frame and have that trust with. Oof, that's a rough one, but it's possible. When I say prisoner's dilemma, here's what I mean. So a prisoner's dilemma is like two people get caught doing a crime, okay? And they're both in separate interrogation rooms. Now, they could both choose to keep their mouth shut. And if they both keep their mouth shut, then they will maybe, do a little bit of time, but there's really not a lot of conclusiveness, whatever. They might do some time, but they're not going to do the maximum full penalty. And they'll both survive. They'll be okay, right? But if one person decides to dime out the other person, then that person gets a deal and gets to maybe go free. And then that other person gets like the life sentence, you see. And so now two people are in this room and they have to blindly trust that the other guy isn't going to dime them out and take that risk. And they don't have any way of knowing until after it's all said and done. Whereas if they give up some information, maybe they get a better deal. That's the prisoner's dilemma. Okay. It's having to blindly trust for the best outcome, even though if you decide to not to capitalize on that trust, then you could totally maximally win. But if both of you do just make that decision, then you both lose. You see, that's the prisoner's dilemma. And that is the thing about trust and surrender in a relationship. She has to do it and completely do it 100%. And then you have to completely do it 100% too. The way in which you both are doing it is different because men and women are different, but you both have to give it up. If you are blindly, and I say blind because you're doing a lot to select a good partner, hopefully, and it's not blind, just did a great show with Dr. Sean Smith with Tactical Guide, right? Tactical Guide to Women will help you not be blind when you pick a good partner. All right, plug his book for a second. So we do the vetting, we set the boundaries, but once you're at that place where you're thinking, you know what, this kind of might be like that ride or die chick I really want to keep around for as long as life lets me. When you make that decision and you want that blissful, happy, peak experience relationship, you got to let go and surrender. Now imagine surrendering, though. This is what happens, is surrender to her and trust blindly. Not trust blindly, and I hate that word, but just trust. You choose to trust and you choose to stop controlling, right? And you surrender to her needs. And what happens if she doesn't? You have that blue-pilled relationship now, right? Where a man becomes a slave and a woman capitalizes on this guy and all this stuff, right? So you never give your frame up, all right? And that'll help you recognize whether or not she's doing her part, but you get where I mean. That is your prisoner's dilemma. You could screw yourself in this, couldn't you? And this is why people are reluctant. And the other way around is true, by the way, because she could give up everything and give it up to your leadership and you fall to your default. Would you start impregnating women that are younger than she is when she's 35 and split your resources, or decide you're in love with your 22-year-old secretary and run off into the sunset? Happens a lot less than what women like to say, but it does happen. Guys discard women all the time, right? Maybe a lot less in these marriages because the men are usually losing. But when men are winning, what happens? The other way around a lot of times, isn't it? Or you're both taking turns winning and losing and you grow all together and you just don't like each other that much because of the divisive relationship you're in, but just stay along, keep going along to get along. That's how it works. So it's a prisoner's dilemma. You both have to surrender. And if one doesn't, then they lose. Then you both lose, right? Because the other will start to now trying to control as well and stop trusting. They both will do it. One does it, the other will follow, and then now you're there again. But remember, here's your key, your secret. Your secret, what you have is you have skills. If you don't have them, you need to be on my channel more and maybe sign up for some of my stuff, okay? Skills in handling women in frame and being that apex alpha in her life. That's what you have in your back pocket. So when you say, you know what, I'm going to go back to surrendering now, and you're going to do it too. And until you're ready, I'm not putting time, energy into you, but I'd love to. So let me know when you're ready. Come back over to the side of surrendering where I'm at. That's where you need to be, and it's what you tell her. And then she does it too, finds her trust again, and follows you because that's what she's designed to do. It only works if she thinks you're the best thing she could ever have, though. If she has any question in her mind, she's out. All right. She's out. She's back to controlling. And that's what we call, for her, we'll call that a transactional relationship. Right. Okay. Now, blue pill thinking is where we believe that by nature, men and women have blissful relationships. All right. So that's the blue pill thing. Blue pill thinking is saying that we're designed by nature to be together and be in peace and harmony and love. That's blue pill thinking. That's the illusion. We're not designed that way. We're designed to fight each other. That's why we fight each other all the time. We're doing what we are designed to do. The fantasy thinking is to say that it's not that way. That's what makes it blue pill. It's not blue pill to say you could have it. It's blue pill to say that this is our nature and what we're designed to do. Because that's how men become losers in the sexual marketplace, is they fall to that design. They refuse to look at the nature of women and the fact that there's a competition happening here. And they go, things are wonderful. If I just do all the right things, everything will be great because she's meant to be with me and I'm meant to be with her and we're supposed to be in love. That's the stuff, right? And then we build our fairy tales around that, pedestalizing women, thinking about the one, the tradcon thinking paradigms, right? It all comes to play here. And this is how, and women, they end up in a documentary called The Tinder Swindler, right? Because they were in their own fantasy, you see. And so that's what happens when we think, but that by nature, we're supposed to, be copacetic. No, that's not what our nature is. Our nature is to be divisive and to bang each other, have babies because of it. All right. Now, incel type thinking, whether you call it whatever club you're in, I don't care. Okay, there's different labels. I'm not going to go through it. All right, they understand that, thinking that men and women are designed to be blissful together by nature is a fantasy. They get that part, but then they think that it's not worth it and that any sort of success is absolutely impossible. This is also a fantasy too, because it's not impossible because people do it all the time. You're just not doing it. You just suck at it. Other people are good at it. Okay. Sorry, it's just the way it is. I don't mean to point at you, but it is what it is. You have a nihilistic fantasy. You're not smart. You're not better than anybody else. You're, in fact, just as stupid, in my opinion, as blue pill thinkers, because you're also in a fantasy land. Yours just happens to be real shitty. Theirs just happens to be really goofy and happy and not true. Okay? So, red pill thinking is accepting the divisive nature of men and women and understanding that we're not designed by nature to live in bliss. Strategies are developed to protect men from losing and setting men up to win more often. That's where red pill stuff is. And then women have their own little things that they're doing to try to win. And any suggestion of being able, the problem is though, in the red pill circles, and I know I'm going to get some of this, all right, is that any suggestion of being able to have bliss with your partner is usually looked at with skepticism and labeled as purple pill, all right, by people who hold out the red pill label, okay? And the men who understand these concepts but want the relationship that isn't divisive are confused and mixing fantasy in with the fantasy blue pill in with the red pill. And of course, in case you didn't get it, that's mixed red and blue together. It's purple anyway. That's why. All right. A lot of times that's correct. A lot of times that guys are trying to be really optimistic, but using the red pill, they're not really fully accepting the red pill stuff. That's true most of the time. Okay, so most of the time that purple pill thing is actually pretty accurate. I don't care whether it's a pill or not, but it's just, again, a label we can use to try to understand concepts as we talk about it. All right, because there are people out there that are not fully accepting that we by nature are divisive, men and women. Our mating strategies are different. We're divisive, and that's why relationships have so many problems. Okay. They want to believe in true love and in blissful relationships, but they don't understand the purple pillars. They don't understand the surrender factor either. They're just going to latch themselves on some fantasies that they're not willing to give up. All right. So that's what happens there. But the surrender factor and being able to have outcome independence and find that person and surrender to each other's needs at a point, all right, is knowing and accepting the divisive nature of men and women. It's not being purple pill. You're definitely red pill. All right. In that sense. Right. And you accept that divisive nature, but you're doing it with the realization, okay, that high attraction as well as bliss in euphoric relationships are possible, just like flying around the country is possible, right? These are things are possible, but it's within the limits of our genetic wiring. We can do it. We're capable of doing it when the right combination comes together with two people, with a couple people, with two people. We'll talk about again single relationships here, not multiple in this case. And it's done through that outcome independence in dating. You have outcome independence while you're dating. You're not surrendering necessarily because you don't know these girls and the girls don't know you, but you have outcome independence. You know it's going to work out. You see different women, you have fun, you vet them out, you set some standards, and then you get into a deep relationship eventually. When you're in that deep relationship, that's when you surrender to it and stop trying to control everything. All right. This is the way to bliss. This is the way to that intense love and all that attraction, all that stuff that you want her to have for you and that you want to have for her without getting harmed. All right. Without getting beat up or hurt. This is what you can have. But it takes an extreme amount of internal strength to be able to get there. All right. For you as a man, you have to have a lot of emotional stability and internal strength. And when you think you have enough, you don't. You have to keep working at it. All right. And then she has to have, and you have to have high chemistry as a man for your partner and attraction for your partner. And she has to have the same, see you as the apex alpha, as well as having her own set of emotional strength and stability to be able to allow herself to submit to your leadership without falling into deep anxiety and instability and going crazy with dread. All right. When you guys decide to do stuff with me, I am going to teach you the skills to win at playing suicide dodgeball. All right. And then sexual marketplace, because that is where it starts. All right. But it's the skills also to have that level of frame where you can level up from there and pick a good person and move them into your frame and then have her surrender and you surrender to the relationship. Okay. And have something that is at a level above what most people will ever experience. This is just peak performance for relationship. It's all it is. We have peak performance everywhere in business and sports, in medicine. We step outside of our genetic defaults all the time to achieve better. That's all this is. And that's what I am here to teach you. Most people, though, will not get it. Most people won't understand. So I'm hoping you're not one of those people. I'm hoping you get it. And you may not fully get it. You may need to watch this again. But when you get it, you don't even need to get it. You just need to believe in it in a way. And then as you start, I know it sounds stupid, but it's inductive reasoning. It's not deductive. You can't, you have to build on it and move towards it. And when you experience and see the results, that's how you know. All right. Now, unfortunately, this does mean some isolation to a degree, even from some of your red pill friends. All right. Because they're not going to get it. And if you talk about some of these things, they might think that you're just like Mr. Positive Thinking here. Right. All right. They're going to be, when you're in those circles of men, they're going to be talking about winning. And sometimes it's at the woman's expense. And that feels rather good than bad most of the time because there's a sense of justice there, isn't there? Men usually lose and women don't like to believe in that, but it's the truth. And so when men win and it's at her expense, we kind of revel in it, don't we? We're not sad for the women who are swindled by this Tinder swindler, are we? Most people are laughing at it and saying, well, these women are stupid and they get what they deserve. Not really thinking about the fact that the guy actually had a private jet and actually took them to all of these places. And it wasn't just pictures on Instagram. Like he actually did things and did so much to get her to a point of being duped. And I'm not saying they weren't naive either, but I mean, we ignore that. We don't have empathy for it. We kind of revel in it because guess what? Women lost this time and we want to win. You see, that's your divisive nature coming out. And I'm not shaming you for it as a guy because they're the same way. They got it too, but being able to understand that, all right, and leave it behind you. Well, now you've just red pilled yourself after being red pilled. All right. I mean, so it's like when you get together with your friends, I mean, remember, you're the influencer here, you know? And so once you know the stuff, you're not just being influenced, but you are the influencer. And when they're ready to hear it, you can tell them. When your guy friends, whether they're blue pilled or red pill raging and thinking that, women ain't shit or whatever, you can sit back and when the time comes, you can tell them what they need to hear when they're ready to hear it. But they're still going to have that story about how they met some hot single mom off of Tinder who told her that, she makes a guy wait 3 dates and then she sleeps with them on the first date, and now, he's not returning her text because he's clear that he's never going to commit to a woman with a kid because he's not raising another woman's kids. And then dudes will kind of laugh about it and say, cheers. Okay. And women who hear that discussion are disgusted and angry about it. But all that guy's doing is winning. Okay. He just won. She lost. Cry, boo hoo, big deal. Because guess what? If he wasn't winning, she would be winning. She would be, she's enjoying the sex and the free dinner, but she justified it in her mind because, she wanted ultimately to bag him and use his arousal and desire to corner him into a commitment, to give resources to the kids. And in that likely scenario, if that were to happen, she would end up losing desire for him later because he would be taking on a provider role and responsibility with no authority and dealing with another man's children. And that's going to come across to her hindbrain as beta. And then she doesn't give him that sex and love and doesn't have those feelings for him, which is the things that brought him into the relationship in the first place. But guess what? She got her kids paid for. She won. She got some sex. She got some free dinner. She got a fun honeymoon and a second marriage. Daddy for the kids. Relationship's over. She won. He lost. All right. So when the guy's laughing about the fact that he didn't go down that road and just banged her a few times and decided not to call her because he told her, hey, I'm not taking care of your kids. And then it's like, yeah, who does she think she is? That's just guys reveling in their win. Those guys aren't bad or terrible any more than she's bad or terrible for trying to win. All they're doing is falling to their nature, what they're designed to do, which is to win in a divisive sexual marketplace where men and women are designed to conflict with each other on a genetic level, right? But when you're strong in your frame and you understand that surrender factor and you understand outcome independence, you can still enjoy playing dodgeball when it's time to play dodgeball because you're self-aware and you're not allowing those influences to program you in a negative way. And you're not relying on those influences for guidance and direction because you simply know more than they do. When you get to this place and stick around, keep following my stuff, jump in one of my programs if you want to get it real fast. When you're in this place, you're the influencer. You got the knowledge now. You have the skills now. All right. And the sexual marketplace then is no longer a scary place. It's no longer no big deal. Right? It's no big deal. You can be friends with everybody, disclosing what they want to hear when they are ready to hear it. But more importantly, you'll understand not just all the truths about the marketplace and how men and women are and the fact that we're not actually designed to be blissfully together, but there's a divisiveness to it. We understand that. And most red pill types people will have a better relationship than most but it's mainly a negotiation, right? Where she's getting what she wants out of it. You're getting what you want out of it. And if there ever comes a time where that doesn't happen, well, then the relationship becomes over, right? That's how most people in that space visualize relationships. However, you're going to take it a level higher than that because you'll know more than everybody else. Okay. You're gonna understand the surrender factor. You're gonna understand the aspect of surrender, the aspect of trust, and knowing how to hold the frame so that she can trust you and surrender to you. And now what you have available to you is something that most people will never experience. And that's it. That's the secret. This is what it is. Most people won't get it. Most people will not make it to the end of this video. It's an hour and 15 minutes long. It's not a quick explanation. We're in a soundbite society, and most people won't understand. But if you're brave enough and smart enough to watch this probably once, twice, maybe 10 times, I don't know if you need to watch it 10 times. You guys are, I don't know if it's that smart, but watching it a few times, digesting it, you may not understand it. You might not get this yet, and that's okay. There's plenty of things that I've read on a philosophical level that made sense to me more later because of work that I had done, you know? And so keep doing the work, keep doing awesome. I'm here to help. Jump in. I'm going to plug my stuff because I know that guys are benefiting. Jump in my mastermind program. Links in the description. I have other programs I'll be doing throughout the year. I'll be jumping in for something that's not quite so intense, but was very valuable. John, Modern Life Dating, has I don't even know what it's called. It's a not mindset summit. Oh, it's late, but inner game summit. And there's going to be a handful of us that will be doing breakout sessions. I'll have links for that in my channel here soon. Maybe do that, right? Just keep working on you, keep working on your stuff, but don't get discouraged. All right. Don't get discouraged at the divisiveness of men and women. There is something on the other side of it. Once you get there, you're ready for it. There's something there. You can have it. All right. All it takes is this, and understanding how to be a little bit attractive, understanding how to handle a chick. And it's not as hard as it may seem. The only reason it seems so hard is because people don't know how. Okay. And I'm here to teach you how. All right. That's that. All right, guys. You guys are pretty awesome. I see a lot of things in the chat. That's really cool. I'm not going to be able to address much of it because I'm going to bed. I'm going to let Danny give me all kinds of compliments, though, first. He even put, some cool emojis there. Thanks, bro. I appreciate it. Good stuff, man. Good stuff. Yeah. I'll be on tomorrow live with this young lady. We'll have a nice conversation. I got a chance to talk with her for a little bit. She's very cool. She's got a small channel. She's mainly trying to help women out. It's good for us to hear from. I know we're mainly a men's help space and channel, at least over here. But yeah, it's good to hear things from women too, right? And so that's it. That is it. I'm gonna sign off now. All right. Take care. Hey, shoot me a like on this video if you liked it. And shoot me a subscribe button there. All right. Helps me out with the algorithms. And I can do more videos for you guys at 3 in the morning or whatever time it is. All right. Peace out.